Hello and welcome to my brand new podcast. I'm Nicky Raby and I'm thrilled that you're joining us. I do lots of things. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In this podcast, I want to talk about success, but not in the traditional sense. I want to bring you conversations that discuss success, what it means, and how there are many different versions. We're going to be talking about business, branding, becoming visible, saying no, saying yes, and how you can create a thriving portfolio career doing more of what you love and less of what you don't. Sometimes there can be a certain mystery around the online world, so I'm going to be asking my guests how they started and grew, how they get paid, how they stand out, and how they create success on their terms. As always, please check the show notes for all things we mention and come and say hi over on social media at Nicky Raby or via my website nickyraby.com/podcast. In today's episode, I talk to Lorna Hayward, who is a freelance content creator and a gatherer of great women. If you know anything about Lorna, you will probably know about the Piz Up, the infamous night out for mums who just kind of want to feel like themselves again and chat with like-minded people and dance and drink and have a great time. We cover lots in this episode. I really hope that you enjoy it. Come on over and join the conversation on Instagram as always, and also you can go to the show notes, which are always at nickyraby.com/podcast. Hi Lorna, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too shabby. Not too shabby today.
Excellent. Well, if people don't know you, would you start just by saying who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Lorna Hayward, aka Mrs. H. Hayward, which a few people are always like, why is there an H there? And I can't really, well, like Harriet's my middle name and Mrs. L. H. Hayward wasn't available. So just for those that care. And I am a freelance content creator and copywriter and mother of two, Elsie and Marnie.
Lovely. And event extraordinaire.
Oh, yeah. And I organise a night called Piz Up, which is a en masse inclusive night out for mums.
And they are brilliant. I have been to one and it was excellent. And I forgot what it was like to wear high shoes.
There you go. And you can come in your high shoes or your trainers or your flip-flops.
And I will be coming in my trainers next time because I was like, wow. And then I looked way more drunker getting on the tube afterwards because I couldn't walk in my shoes. But yeah, how did it... Let's go back to how your career started for you and how did it all begin?
Well, do you know what? I actually feel weird, and I felt like even weird just saying then I am a content creator and copywriter, because ultimately that is not what I started out doing. And it's something that has only arisen in the last year from my blog, really. So way back when, I've just worked in marketing agencies. So started from the bottom as a junior account exec, in terms of client services, to an account exec, to an account manager, to a senior account manager. And that was kind of where I ended up after having both of my girls, so 2 maternity leaves I had whilst working for a lovely interactive marketing agency, digital marketing agency called This Is Tommy in Soho. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just found the balance, which is hilarious really, because I now realise on the other side, I'm not sure anyone has the balance quite right.
No,
but
it's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, you know, of course, like the benefits of it today, you know, is a pure example of me being able to work flexibly around my children and do stuff that is, you know, out of the norm. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that it's all, I don't walk out the door every morning skipping with the girls to school. I'm usually like screaming,
get your shoes
around.
on.
Yeah, I mean, the smoothie dance on Instagram stories might depict a very different, but which we do have that moment, but doesn't mean I'm not like foaming at the mouth by the time we try to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I basically worked for them, and I just I'd had a bit of a rough time kind of mentally, and I felt that leaving the house at 7 a.m. and having a nanny look after Marnie in between the drop-offs at Elsie's preschool just was not working for me.
Yeah.
And I tried it, I'd gone back twice and I'd given it a good go, and I was bringing home around £140 a month after childcare. And so I just was like, well, this is mad. I mean, I either need to find £140 a month, which I could have done working, even working from home, doing telesales or whatever, or looking after someone else's children. And so what have I got to lose? I'll just, leave my job. And it came down to money at that point. Why am I doing it for £140? Because as much as I loved the job, in terms of the people, it just wasn't enough to keep me there.
Yeah.
And, my other sort of mental health kind of worries and battles were getting worse. And so I just made the leap, and it was terrifying. And I remember thinking, well, the worst thing that can happen is I just, either they said, we will have you back if this doesn't work out. So I always had that like to fall back on, which was amazing. And I can find a freelance contract. So that's kind of what I did. And I just, gave the nanny notice and was at home. And it wasn't long before then that I met up just a few different people, those chance meetings that you have.
Yeah.
So they all sort of came, all various things that happened over the next few months just came about with chance sort of meetups and paths like crossing, really, which, when people say that, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't just happen, but it did, and it just, these things happen at the same time. I met my good friend Kaz Taylor, who runs Tailored Bundles. She introduced me to Gemma, who runs All by Mama.
Yes.
Yeah, so Gemma has like this amazing company, and it's an online marketplace and everything there is curated and made by mums. And basically I met up with her with an introduction from Kaz, and we just talked about me kind of doing 10 hours a week for her. Just, again, that was my £140 that I was missing out. But basically I could work evenings, I could work on weekends. It didn't matter when I worked, just get the work done. And so I sort of stepped straight into that, which was good for me because I was so terrified of not having anything.
Especially because you always have as well. I think that's such a, I really noticed it when I was in the early days of motherhood, of that sense of like, oh, actually my role is to sit in the chair and to feed this baby and do the majority of the childcare. And actually stepping back from my identity as a working person was quite weird.
Oh, massively. And I really dreaded going back to work, but actually once I was there, I really enjoyed it, like, because it gave me that sense, for me personally, it gave me that sense of something that I had experienced for however long up until giving birth. That was my life. So to suddenly have it, maternity leave always felt temporary for me. I always knew I went back much quicker with Elsie, and then went back, I took longer with Marnie because I kind of knew what was coming as well.
Yeah.
But I still needed, even though I was home with the girls and had the opportunity to do the drop-offs and then hang with Marnie, I did need something else. I do need something else. And all of these things sort of came together very quickly to the point where then, I had sort of too much on, and then was like, had to consider putting Marnie into childcare again, which all was great because I still have so much time with them. But yeah, so I started working for All by Mama, and that was fine. And then around the same time, an old client of mine, amazing lady called Kathy, and I'm talking an old client when I was 22, like working at Maidenhead as a junior account exec. We were friends on Facebook, and in all honesty, I couldn't remember whether I knew we were still friends, but she popped up after reading one of my blogs and sort of said, oh, I've been reading your blogs and we could really do with some help with sort of putting a bit of energy and character into our content. And she works for a large kind of blue chip organization. So you're quite regimented in what you can produce for them. But she was like, but I want, from a marketing point of view, to kind of use our social platform to put a bit more character into it. So I couldn't be swearing and doing too much tongue in cheek, which comes quite natural to me, but just to give a bit of something else. So I started freelancing for her, which, by kind of experience, I'm not a copywriter, but I obviously create content and copyright from a perspective of my blog, for the last year. And obviously as part of my job in a marketing agency, you have to draft some copy. And I started to do more bits like that towards the end when my bosses realized I was blogging and stuff. And, that job for me and the opportunities that Kathy has given me to work flexibly, I draft content for their social feed. It enables me to, do the drop-offs, do the pickups, organize Up, speak to you because, I will work extra hours tonight. So, without that job, I wouldn't be able to do half the amount of stuff I've done in the last year.
Yeah, I think like starting your own stuff, whether it be a blog or a YouTube series or whatever it might be, is it always leads to something, and sometimes you just have to create it first, and then people, like this podcast, bizarrely, like once I'd created it, other people pop up, I'd end up doing other stuff for other people, and you can't just wait for somebody to go, hey, you're funny, do you want to come in and do something for us? You have to sort of prove your worth almost first.
Yeah. And the things that have popped up and I have worked on in the last year are so far removed from what I'd ever think I would have been involved with before, that, it's just, and they've just by circumstance and, like you said, conversation and kind of chance meetings. And then, again, it happened with another lady who I met actually at the Hotbed Collective, which I always say, I met her at this sex party. And everyone's like, Jesus. But I did.
That one.
Yeah. So when we were at the Hotbed Collective, and it was like through a friend of a friend, and someone was like, oh, Lorna, writes content or is great at content or something. And we just must have swapped numbers. I remember getting hammered that night. So that was that. And I think like 3 months later, I had a phone call. I was walking to the park with Marnie, and it was a bit like, oh, hi, yeah, we met at this sex party. I was like, oh, crikey, what have I done? And it all sort of came back to me slowly. And she was working for a fashion label and just was like, right, I need someone. And, it was a bit flying by the seat of your pants, because you are kind of sometimes in freelancing as well. I say copy and content, the job changes depending on who I'm speaking to and what brand I'm working with.
Yeah.
So,
brands who don't have a huge like international budget love it if you come to the table with more than just one thing. Like I remember being an agent's assistant and kind of being a real help in the way that, oh, actually I do know a bit about invoicing and I can sell, or I can do this. And actually that's how you, I don't know, just become better, and you don't get comfy.
That's completely true for me, because, my background is like advertising, digital advertising. And so, sometimes you forget, don't you? Just like, oh, well, sorry, I do know how to do that. And they're like, oh, right, I thought you were just, and it's like, you pick up all these things, and actually for a smaller agency or a smaller brand, it can be, so hugely beneficial to them to have somebody who is able to do more than just kind of one job.
Yeah. And fresh eyes on something. I think sometimes when I've been in corporate environments, whether it's to go in and do talks or whatever, sometimes people can feel a bit stuck, like, oh, it's the same person, or I sit next to Sarah or whatever. And actually having somebody to shake things up or bring something new to the table can be really beneficial.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's been so it's been a mishmash of roles, really,
and just figuring it out. I love that you've just been open to the fact of going, okay, cool, let's roll with it, and let's just try this, and if it doesn't work, try something else.
Yeah, I have learned on the job a lot, but I think also what it's done to me, I'm used to for years and years and years, and I am a very like, well, listen, when you told me I couldn't swear on this, I was like, oh, what? But I'm not going to do it, don't worry. I like banter. Previous to this, Tommy, like we would have worked in the agency, it's full of kind of younger folk. And then suddenly to be working on your own, it can kind of zap that confidence. And you're like, crikey, I'm like a 37-year-old mother of two. And I'm now going into this room to tell them how to run this, that, and the other. And you don't really realize till you're in it. You're like, God, I actually do know some stuff,
I'm really clever.
But you're usually shrouded by a team or supported by a team. And so to sit in like the scenarios I've sat in the last year, I never, ever would have thought I could do that before. But equally, I kept going back to what have I got to lose? And what if I don't try? Then all I've got to go back to is, I had this like 140 pounds in my head. That's kind of, if I can go above and beyond that, if that's what I wanted to be doing, which I did want to be working, then, I've got to give it a whirl.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes just being in that place of like let's just see what happens, and maybe others will feel the same as me and all of that. I think you just prove that time and time again, especially with your events. Like if people I'm sure if you're an Instagram fan, I'm sure you've heard of it, but how did that begin for you?
That's another thing when people like also, you're an event. I was like, I don't really, I'm not an event manager. It's like, well, actually you are.
You are.
Like, somehow I am.
Your name's on the ticket, love.
With, it just started with me. So I had kind of, a presence on Instagram in a very, very small sense. And I had done my blogs. I mean, like, when I say about the blog now, I haven't written a blog. I was looking at my site since January, and it's just, it's really fallen by the wayside because my blog isn't like a review platform. Like it's only there for my kind of writing.
Yeah.
So therefore, if I haven't had something to write about, which I have, but I think I'm sure you're aware, Nikki, like Instagram has become more of a micro blogging. So I do a lot of it through that now, as opposed to these long. And I think for me, it was quite a mental exercise, and I was slightly more unhappier in those times. So writing for me. Anyway, I digress.
But the point is, I feel like it has to be perfect. When you're saying a blog, it has to be that thing. And actually, the platform of Instagram is people connect with, the instant, and the kind of, this is how I'm feeling right now, or this is what's going on. Anybody else? That sort of sense.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, I had and a few people had messaged me, more local mums or local-ish in the area, and said, we should meet up, or, you're only down the road from me, like, and I found like this, that, and the other really supportive of what you've said on your blogs or whatever it was. And, we should try and have a play date. Or I had a couple of people sort of say, I've seen you in Sainsbury's in Southside, but I didn't want to come and say hello.
Buying prawns.
Yeah, because buying prawns and New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc.
I think we might get on. Fancy it, Friday?
Huh?
It's like that. I've seen you buying prawns and wine. Friday, you, me, the park. Let's go.
Yes, that's it. Oh, massive pants. Sainsbury's do really good pants. And yeah, so anyway, and I just kind of thought, oh, like rather than do this whole like, oh, I'll, meet up with you and have a play date. And, when the kids are around, I was like, oh, we should all try and meet up. But maybe I'll just try and do like an en masse kind of local mums night out, because we won't actually get to talk to each other if the kids are there.
Yeah.
And this went for my friends as well. This was like, my mum mates down the road. Because trying to get us all together, I didn't have an NCT group, so we didn't have that kind of automatic 10 of us go out together. I had like Lauren, who was a good friend who I met in soft play. I had, someone else from school. I had all these pockets of like wicked women. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just do a big mum's night out locally, and it wasn't local to ostracize. It was just local because it was easy for me. And I think that has been a big part of the success behind Piz Up, is that I have kind of, in the nicest possible way, kept it selfish, and I've kept it every time I think, what would I want? What would I want at an event? And it's been specific to my needs, and it seems to, have resonated with other women as well. I think, so I just did this kind of night out, and I put the feelers out and said, if I organised a night locally, would you come? And I always wanted to have like an exclusivity of somewhere. Like I think a lot of events, and I don't call it an event, I call it a night out, because I do think there is a difference. And I think sometimes even, you can have an area of somewhere, can't you? And it's like, oh, are you here for so-and-so? Great. If you go up round the back, up the stairs, right down the corner, you've got the bar right in the corner. Yeah, where no one can see you.
Especially if you're rocking up on your own as well, and you're like, oh my God, more public places for me to walk through and look completely friendless and gormless.
Yeah, totally. And I just thought, I don't want to be... I'd quite, and this is I have younger friends, I have, young sister-in-laws, I have, it doesn't mean that I don't talk to them because they're younger and more fit than me. I don't know.
It's annoying though.
But, I also wanted to be like, I want to stand at the bar ordering a drink, and I want to know that the woman next to me is going to be facing the same kind of SHIT as I am tomorrow morning when I'm hanging out my arse.
Yes.
Can I say it, arse? Sorry.
Yeah, you can. It's a great word, one of my faves.
And I want to go into the toilet and know that, it's just, the same. You're just sharing that kind of camaraderie with, a similar woman to yourself. And it doesn't mean that I never want to be in a room with men, or I never want to be in a room with younger women or whatever, but I think just a one-off to have something to really look forward to, be like, oh, everyone here is going to probably have to do a school run and nursery drop-off, all be at home tomorrow morning, but actually we're all in it, sort of together.
Yeah.
And some people have come on their own. I mean, so many come on their own now. And it just, yeah, I had that one night. I did the post Piz Up party bag, which was a bit of a take to the goodie bag that you get at events. And I wanted everything in there to be just like a little nod towards the morning after, and just for mum.
Yes.
And that was all my own. I just went to Costco, bought, 36 bottles of water, 36 baby bells, 36 packets of, I think what it was then, like Quavers or something. And it was, mostly food and drink and a strip of paracetamol. And that point, I was kind of racking up 35 strips of paracetamol wasn't too bad. When you get to like 90 strips, I'm basically on suicide watch in Earlsfield, because I have to visit every single chemist.
She's here.
I'm alive. But yeah, and then the first one, just, I don't know, I was so nervous. And my mate Lauren was there at the beginning with me, and it was just, there's a lot more familiar faces in a sense. And then it just was a huge hit. It was a Tuesday night, because a lot of the places, I get this a lot, why isn't it a Friday or a Saturday? And it's like, because if you want exclusivity of somewhere, And I don't ever want like my ladies to pay a ridiculous amount for a ticket. You have to kind of go on a night that isn't, going to be extortionate, or they won't be open anyway. So, we had it in this lovely little coffee shop that I know had pizzas and Prosecco, and it just was a big success. And then the second one was, and it's kind of incrementally, it's not been bonkers every time. It was 35. The second one was 45. But then the 45 felt very different. I got Jamie to DJ at that one, and it just felt, there were more Instagram faces, which was lovely, but equally made me quite kind of nervous. Because I think it's important that, I've always tried to hammer home that this isn't an Instagram event. It isn't, Debbie from down the road is as welcome as, someone who's coming from Instagram with 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
And I never want anyone to ever feel sort of unwelcome, or that they don't, because they don't have an Instagram handle, because they don't have a business, or because, they just stay at home. I don't want anyone to ever feel that they're not, welcome. And I think a part of that is me being at the front of the door when the night starts, and just making sure that like every woman walks in and feels welcome then when they arrive.
Yes. I think when I can't remember what the date was when I came, but it was one of the first nights out that I'd had since having Oscar. And it was quite nerve-wracking, actually, almost because generally after you finally put kids to bed, you've lost all your sense of coordination and sense, and, you just want to curl up in a heap yourself. And actually having my wits about me and being on a train and it being in public and putting on a proper bra and all of that sort of stuff, it felt like quite a big deal. And to know that you're going somewhere where, of course, you're going to be judged. You're not daft, but also you felt like you were in safe hands. That's a really lovely thing that you do for women.
And I thank you. And I think that's just so, as confident as I'm imagine that I come across a lot of the time. I'm extremely nervous at the start of Piz Up, and I'm also been in scenarios, not just an event, which is, that's been a new thing to me in the last year, having the opportunity to go to those things. But anything, it is nerve-wracking, and it does take an effort. And I always say, I was I was always umming and ahhing about whether to say something every time at Piz Up. But I feel like I have to kind of acknowledge the effort.
Yes.
Because it takes a babysitter sometimes. It takes, getting a partner home. It takes getting yourself in the shower once the kids in. And I don't, sometimes I don't want to do it. And then you don't realize till you're there and having good conversation and with good company and eating great food and getting lashed that you're like, God, I actually really needed this.
Yes. And then you tell everybody, which is what I think I needed, did afterwards. I'm having a really good time. I think I told you, I'm really having a lovely time. It's really brilliant. And what's been the biggest surprise for you, putting, going from the idea and actually making it happen? I think it's at the moment with this one, I keep saying to myself, with Fizz Up having sold out and however many weeks till that, it's when did this go from 35 women to 400? How? Why am I Michael Eavis all of a sudden? If I see you on a tractor going round Wandsworth, I'll be like, she's changed. She's on Clapham Common already.
But I think, and I did say, and that is, true. I remember, it won't ever be bigger than this, and it won't. The last 4 Piz Ups have been 85 or 85 to 90, and I always call them the general Piz Ups, which are around every 6-7 weeks, or so far. I've only done 6, but I will only do 2 sort of big ones. So I've obviously experienced the quiz up, which was for me massively mind-blowing, just standing in front of that many people, just thinking, how did I facilitate this?
I'm a pop star.
Yeah. And then, it is, I think it's the simplicity of it all. And I kind of am still like in shock that, in a few weeks' time, there will be that many women coming to something that I've sold tickets for. But I still sort of swear by the fact that it's down to a simple concept and keeping it that way. I've been lucky enough, and obviously I'm extremely flattered to have opportunities being offered to me for Piz Up, and be it franchising, be it hosting them in different areas. But it sounds weird, I don't want Piz Up to become my job.
Yes.
And I think that's why, I get as lashed as the next person. Usually, I mean, especially after the quiz up, I waited until DJ Luck and MC Neat had been on, because I was so terrified they weren't going to turn up. But it's much for me as it is for everybody else. That's why I did it, because I felt like I hadn't really ever been a part of something. Like, I didn't really sound so crap when you say you don't feel like you belong to something, but I didn't have that NCT clique. I didn't have like all my school friends having kids at the same time, and I just craved, because that's just the type of person I am, to be a part of something and to belong to, so Piz Up gives me loads, and I don't want that to change. I don't want it to become a chore, and I don't want it to become about me making money out of it. And of course, as it's got bigger, I have been able to make money out of it. And, a lot of the money, especially for the big ones, obviously I have to pay. So many people ask me this, actually. How on earth did you get Artful Dodger or DJ Luck and MC Neat? The answer, I pay them.
I pay them.
I mean, literally, I was like, I just put into Google DJ Luck and MC Neat's, talent management, and then emailed their manager, filled out a form, and paid a lot of money. It's things like that money has come from me. Thanks, Mum. She got it back. But, so I have been lucky enough to obviously make some money to pay for things like that. But I don't want it to become about me making money and it being my job, because I think then it won't become as enjoyable. I don't ticket Piz Up in the park. That's just purely for, again, selfish reasons. I wanted to share like my afternoons in the summer when I've got to do the girls' tea and it's the sun shining, and sometimes I don't want to sit in the garden. Fine, I'm going to be on Wandsworth Common with a bottle and my kids and some baby bells at this time. Who wants to join me? And 50 odd women turned up, because I guess they all needed it too.
And we're all craving that sense of, like, the online world is wonderful, but I know that I am craving that in-person stuff sometimes. Yeah. I want that conversation. I want to look in people's eyes. And it's, especially when we were talking a little bit before we started, that sort of relentlessness of the day, of that structure and doing the same thing day in, day out. And there's so many wonderful, brilliant moments to it. But sometimes you do need something just for you as well. And if you can incorporate kids, then all the best.
Yeah, and I think that's why, Piz Up in the Park is nice, because, we are with the kids, aren't we? Like in the day, unless you're at work, but if you've got a day off work, and I just think, should we just share the load? And sometimes, you want to be on your own with them, but other times it's worked really well just to rock up, and it's only, a few hours. And that's really lovely. And I think, but then equally on the other side, Piz Up gives you, I think it's been the ease, for me, like, when you just buy a ticket and you're like, right, I bought a ticket, all I've actually got to do now is, and I think because I'm organising the rest of it, it takes that stress out.
Yes.
So a lot of women with their, quite a few women, even though loads came on their own to Quiz Up, some women came with the NCT group because they're like, this is our Christmas party. Or a group of girls were like, actually, you could think, where should we go for our kind of Christmas gathering? And you think, I don't know about that bar because it will be full of, maybe 25-year-olds, or don't know about that bar because it's a bit like sleazy. And it's like, well, actually, you can just all come under one roof. And I appreciate the garage, element isn't for everyone. But again, it was selfishly for me, and it's just so lucky that it mostly resonates with most people, with a bit of like youthful, look back in the dancing from the good old garage days. But yeah, I still cannot like comprehend that there will be that many women in one venue, but equally I can't wait.
Yeah, amazing. How has Instagram and your platform helped you in terms of carving out this new chapter for yourself?
It has, it has helped me. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't have met or had certain conversations had it not been for kind of having the opportunity to go to X events, or speak to people. I'm sure you've had the same. You have conversations with people who you've actually not met before, and then they invite you to something, and once you're there, it kind of creates a bit more of a networking opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so difficult because I think so many people say these days, don't they? Well, what would you do if Instagram like just finished tomorrow? And it's like, I think I'd be okay, because ultimately, and I think this is something that I always say to sort of keep my head calmer, is Instagram like isn't my job. I have a job. I have 2-3 jobs, and it's a great platform for so many reasons for me, but it doesn't as such pay me. I've been very lucky to have the opportunity of 1 or 2 paid pieces, but it's certainly not something that I could give up work for.
No.
And so I think that gives me a bit of reassurance that it's not the be all and end all. Equally, it's given me a million opportunities of such great friendships and support, and just laughs. It's just a bit of a laugh, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I sometimes take it like you think you get yourself into a bit of a tiz about it all, and you're like, get a grip, woman.
Yeah, my friend watched one of my stories earlier, and I was just saying that I was enjoying walking through a park and not talking about squirrels because I was on my own. And this girl who I know immediately messaged going, God, yeah, I do talk about squirrels a lot. And yeah, I totally resonated with that. And it was such a silly thing, but it was that sort of, connection, I guess.
Absolutely.
One final question. Where would you like to be in 5 years' time in business and in life?
Ooh,
apart from being a Kardashian, which is what we talked about earlier.
Well, if I can't be Kim part-time.
Yes. Why would you like to be a Kardashian, by the way? What would be your favourite elements?
In their kitchens, they just have jars of things that are untouched and went just amazing displays of biscuits. And then when you open their fridge, it's just like Fiji water lined up, and you've got a chef cooking for you. I mean, I could go on, quite frankly. You get to go on holiday. It's just, I think my challenge to you is you need to watch one next time I see you. I want to know that you've watched one.
I will. I was saying to Lorna earlier, I cannot believe that. Well, I can believe it because life is busy, but I have not watched a Kardashian. I mean, I know of them, but I just all kind of know that they've all got names beginning with K, I think. But I need to work on this because it's totally up my street.
Yeah, you do. Honestly, indulge yourself. Give yourself a little treat next time your husband's away.
Exactly. Tuesday night, here we go. Yes.
Well, 5 years from now, okay. Do you know what? I would love to just still be, despite ups and downs, I'm very kind of grateful for the situation that I'm in work-wise. And I just love to be carrying on doing what I'm doing, which is being able to, whatever job that is, work flexibly around the girls. And I want Piz Up to continue and carry on being the success it is. I'd love to maybe host some up north in and around different areas. I don't want to be looking at franchising at the moment because it's just not where I want Piz Up to be, but I would love to visit some of the northern ladies and just have the opportunity for for some of those ladies to kind of meet and make friends with some people they don't get to usually, and hang out with good women.
Amazing. Sounds great. You could get a bus.
I know, Piz Up on Tour.
Yes.
I mean, it's all been spoken about. And that's the thing. I think it's like, for me, at the moment, it works here. You know, I have to organise like childcare and get, you know, Nana down and all those things. And for me, you know, that needs to be local.
Yeah.
So plus, you know, all the other nights are in East London. Got to come southwest occasionally.
Absolutely. I've had a very good night out in southwest London many a time. And yeah, I've lived all over London, but I've had some very good ones out there as well. So yeah, somewhere I was wearing, many of which I was probably wearing a boob tube. I was just thinking.
Oh, those are the days.
Those were the days, yeah, and I'm not quite sure whether that was a good move or not, but time will tell.
Wonder if anyone crack out a boob tube at Fizz Up.
Oh my goodness!
To do it. Go on.
Yeah, I think I need a lot of kind of help. I think I saw Sarah Jessica Parker do it once in her kind of big phase, where maybe she had a boob tube and a crop trouser or a tutu, that kind of thing. Yeah, definitely. I need to think about it. Lorna, thank you so much. I've loved chatting. If people want to find out more about you and come and say hi, where should they go?
Best place is probably, my Instagram, which is Mrs. H. Hayward. And if you want to find more information out about Piz Up, then you can go to my Facebook page, which you can just search for Piz Up on Facebook and it'll come up there. And there's always links and tickets and waiting lists if people want a ticket and didn't get one. And my website, which is themumblings.co.uk. where you'll see I haven't written a blog post since January.
But while I'll be watching Kardashians, you will be writing a blog post. Yeah. Maybe about the Kardashians. But yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media at Nicky Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nickyraby.com/podcast.